Hey, what's up guys? It's a nice day in Brooklyn. It's been a while. Today I'll be talking about the 3 most important things you need to know first before shooting with a professional camera. Alright, so let's go. When I started shooting about 12-13 years ago, I did not understand that photography was a very complex subject, a very complex art. I love the idea that you can freeze time. I love the idea that you can create your own memories. I love the idea of just capturing the moment. But what I did not know was that it took beyond just turning on the camera and pointing and shooting. It took beyond that. I mean, there are a lot of rules and, laws and whatever you call it in photography. Personally, I feel as a creator that it's okay to bend those rules sometimes. It is okay, and that's what I've been doing all my life, and that's what I've been applying wherever I go to shoot. But what I'm going to talk to you about today is what every photographer should know. You should understand how it works, and you should be able to apply it very well. So yeah, let's get into it. Okay, that was close. So for the purpose of this video, I'm just going to quickly, on the surface, talk about how these 3 things could help you become a better photographer, or for the very least could help you use a professional camera. So I'm not going to go too deep into the technical explanations of how the camera works and yada yada yada. So the first thing is shutter speed. What is shutter speed? The way the camera works is that when you click the shutter to take a picture, the camera opens and closes the lens in order to capture that image that you are trying to take. When it's open, light comes in, the image is captured, and when it closes, it's complete. How fast that opens and closes is the shutter speed. The shutter speed is variable, meaning you can decide to slow it down or you can decide to speed it up. The slower the shutter speed, the blurrier the image is. The faster the shutter speed, the sharper the image is. The second thing is aperture. Aperture is the amount of light that the lens allows into a camera. Remember I was talking about the shutter speed is when the shutter opens and closes. Aperture is the value that controls how much light the lens allows in the camera. The other word for aperture is also known as the f-stop. You've probably heard about it. F-stop is the value of light that comes into the camera. The lower your f-stop is, the more light the lens will allow into the camera. The higher the f-stop, the less light the lens allows into the camera. Mainly aperture is based on what kind of lens you're using, meaning that all of that happens on the lens of the camera. So if you have a lens that has a variable aperture, you can turn it up and turn it down. You can control that value. For aperture, that's what you need to know, is the value that determines how much light the lens allows into the camera. That's your aperture. Alright, so last but not the least is ISO. ISO is pretty much the brightness of your image. So you can look at it as how bright your image could get. And that's it. So those 3 things are what you need to know, and I'm going to show you how they work right now. Alright, looks like we're here. Welcome to Queens, everybody. I love this bridge. So a quick confession, I know a lot of you know this, but I love bridges. See, I mean, look at this. Oops, you can't see it. The sun blinded you. So I mean, I have a thing for good architecture and just pretty bridges, and I feel like New York has the best bridges. I mean, I don't know if you disagree, you can fight me. Alright, so I am all set up. I have my camera set up here overlooking the bridge. Man, this is some scary stuff. I'm gonna show you guys on my phone what this setup looks like. So here's the setup on my phone. As you can see, all my tripods, they are on the edge. So I'm going to try not to fall off here before I leave. So yeah, but let's get into it. So I have my camera setup overlooking the bridge. So we're going to go through the shutter speed, the aperture, and the ISO settings so you guys can see how all of these things affect each other. So right now I have my camera at shutter speed 500, f-stop or aperture is at 2.0, and my ISO is at 80, very low because it's very bright outside. So I'm going to take a shot of the bridge, and this is how it looks. You can see it's pretty much blown out. It's overexposed. It's just really because it's very sunny. It's like pre-golden hour over here. So how do we compensate? If I turn up my shutter speed, let's crank it up to 1,000. Shutter speed to 1,000. I'm going to take a shot. So shutter speed at 1,000, aperture still at 2.0, and my ISO is at 80. So it reduces the amount of light that comes in. As you can see, the picture gets sharper, because the shutter is now opening and closing at 1,000th of a second, which is pretty fast. So we can turn that up a little more to 2,000, and now this image is getting really, really nice because now most of the light is being cut out, and now you can see the nice sunset in the back. So that is how your shutter speed can make an image look cool, especially when you're shooting outside. Let's bring back the shutter speed down to 500, back to where we started. And I'm going to start adjusting my f-stop from 2.0 to 3.2, and I'll shoot. And you see now it almost looks like when we cranked up our shutter speed to 1,000, right? Because now increasing my aperture to 3.2 now allows less light to come into the camera. Alright, so it's not as overblown and too bright as it was. Let's take it up even more. We're gonna increase it to 5.0. And now this starts to look like when we brought up the shutter speed to 2,000. You can see the sunset in the back, and it's cool. So now if we bring back everything back to 2.0, and obviously if I turn up the ISO, this picture just gets brighter. So in a case where someone hands you a camera, if you pick up a camera and you don't know what to do, right? ISO is at 320, how can you make this picture look cool? There are two ways you can do that using the shutter speed and the aperture. You can do it in two ways. So first with the shutter speed, first thing you want to do is to increase your shutter speed. Again, remember, if the image is overblown and it's too bright, increasing the shutter speed reduces the amount of light that comes into the camera. What I would first do to this image, I will go to my shutter speed and I'll turn it up. So right now we're at ISO 320 and shutter speed 500. I'll turn the shutter speed up to 1/4000th of a second, and we take the shot. And as you can see, you don't get the cool sunset in the back like you did when the ISO wasn't too hot, but you get a pretty good picture. Now, the other way to use the aperture to do this is, let's turn back down the shutter speed to 500, and you can crank up the aperture, meaning you can close up your aperture. And if I close up to 9, f-stop of 9, and I take the shot, this is still a pretty good shot. So this is one of the easiest way you can use to quickly adjust settings on your camera. If it's too bright, you touch the shutter speed. If that's not enough, you can touch the aperture. So keep in mind that these settings can change depending on what you're shooting. Cranking up the shutter speed in a landscape shot is different from cranking up the shutter speed when you're shooting portraits. Alright, so keep that in mind. Alright guys, so that's it for this video. I wanted to keep it short and sweet, and I hope I was able to do that. I don't want to minimize the importance of learning photography by just showing you these three things. There is more to these three things that you need to know to become a better photographer. But with these three things, you can take better pictures if you never did before. Like I always say, get out there, shoot more, take your camera with you more, and that's the only way you can learn. So that's it for this video. Hit the like button, hit subscribe if you like the content, leave me a question in the comments, follow me on Instagram as well. And as I leave here, I'll leave you with a few more shots from this nice view. Thank you guys. Until then, see you next time. Peace.